San Diego, an hour and a half away. Like Chargers fans will come up, but the team's got to put something on the field for them to come up and watch. And definitely the loudest or the best home crowd environment I've ever seen the Chargers have uh, in my adult life. They beat the Ravens. What are we talking about then?
It's going to get loud if you guys beat the Ravens.
The sweet, sweet taste of victory. My Chargers are officially on a 4-game winning streak following that insane game against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's my friend Benjamin Cure reached out to have me on his show, and I had to bring the clip back to my YouTube channel so you guys could see my instant reaction to the Chargers defeating the Bengals. I'll put the links in the description to the full episode. Let's get into the conversation with my friend Ben about my Los Angeles Chargers defeating the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, so I want to start here. You were actually at the game last night. What was the environment like? Because there's been this stigma that Chargers fans aren't the most loyal fans in the world. We thought last year they were definitely paying that lady to be a super fan and be screaming on camera. Is the environment better this year than it has been in years prior?
Yes, it has, and especially these last 2 weeks. I wasn't at a Titans game, but a lot of friends were there, including that Chargers fan that people think is fake was there at the game. We're now 2 years removed from these accusations. She's been really faking it for a long time, and she's been dropping a lot of money because she sits in the front row for every game. So she is balling out, faking being a Chargers fan, or maybe the Chargers are funding it all. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what I've been predicting since day one, Benjamin. I don't know how much we've talked about it between me and you, but at least on other shows that I've been in, the Chargers fans have always been there. You could feel it when you go to Chargers events. You could feel it when you go back down the coast to San Diego, an hour and a half away. People think that's, I mean, with traffic, it gets bad sometimes. I've done those 5-hour San Diego drives, like, and just been stuck on the 5 freeway and bumper to bumper traffic. But typically it's an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. Like Chargers fans will come up, but the team's got to put something on the field for them to come up and watch. Hey, sorry for interrupting myself, but one quick reminder before you forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you can be here every single time I post. It's the free way you guys can support the channel. We're trying to build something special here very early on in the stages here. We only have 10,000 subscribers. We're trying to get 20,000 subscribers. The only way that's possible is if you guys support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, turn on notifications. It's also like $1 billion to go all the way full circle here to go to a game with your family at SoFi Stadium.
It's expensive, man.
Parking,
it is expensive.
Food, the tickets, and just being in LA and in California and living, just living and breathing, it costs money. So it's hard for Chargers fans to justify a team you getting 63 points dropped on them the week before, and then you shell out your money and drive 2 hours, your whole family, to go and watch the Chargers in SoFi Stadium the next week. So I've been saying it forever. It really has just been about the Chargers finding success, the Chargers winning, as sad as that may sound, to get those San Diego fans back in. They combined with the LA fans and the LA environment that was already there, even though we were outnumbered at times. And it's made something special. And last night, I will say, I've been to 20, 25, I don't know how many SoFi Stadium games now. Been to Rams games,
30,
Chargers
35
games. I think that was maybe the third loudest I've heard SoFi overall. It was from Chargers fans, and definitely the loudest or the best home crowd environment I've ever seen the Chargers have in my adult life. Let's say that. Since Qualcomm. I went to Qualcomm 2 years, the final 2 years at Qualcomm. I was stationed in San Diego. I went to most of those games, and even those games weren't like this one. So it was pretty exciting, man. It's something that, like, I feel like us Chargers fans have known. We're not surprised at all by this, but it's good to kind of like shut up all of those stereotypes and narratives that are spread around the internet about our fan base. When honestly, if you think about the pain the franchise has put us through, and like some of the moments, some of the players that
it's been rough,
that we
man.
fell in love with that just didn't get it done and had to retire on that. Like these fans, these are some of the most loyal fans you're going to find in sports, in my opinion. I equivalent it to what's going on with the Padres. The Padres were a team that no one in baseball enjoyed watching play. Their stadium would be empty every single game. And now they have one of the most like rowdy, like excited fan bases in sports because their team got good and they got a special player. So I think that that's what's happening with the Chargers. We got our special player. They got the guy in the driver's seat that knows how to drive. That's a NASCAR driver. So that's really what's changed for the Chargers is success, and the fans come. It's
And
that
it's
simple. And if the Chargers start losing like the Raiders, our crowd will look like the Raiders crowd again.
valid, honestly valid. I think the switch under the headset is the biggest thing, and we'll talk about it in a second. But first, I want to start with the guy that you're talking about being special under center, and Justin Herbert. He threw for over 300 yesterday, had 3 passing touchdowns. He was electric. He was slinging the pill in the first half, like unbelievably so. To me, yesterday, I think it finally gave mainstream NFL fans the picture of, you know what? We like Joe Burrow a lot, but I think Justin's better than him right now, and he definitely has the better team around him right now. And I think Justin hopefully will start, for his own sake, getting more dark horse MVP looks, which we'll talk about in a second. But to me, what is the biggest difference between Justin Herbert this year and Justin Herbert last year in your eyes?
Health. This looks like rookie year Justin Herbert again, and we haven't really seen him get through a full season healthy. Even his big sophomore year, which was the year that he put up 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, he was banged up most of that year. Chargers were playing without Keenan Allen, I think, for 5 games that year, without Mike Williams for 8 games that year. It's just once this guy gets healthy, he has the tools to 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 overcome. And it's almost like it's hard to compare to any quarterbacks because it's not quite on the level of Josh Allen dominance. It's not quite like that as a rusher, especially. I would put him up against each other with their deep ball, but and just as facilitators of the game. But
That's
when it
fair.
comes to the rushing ability, it's not quite that level. But Herbert has always been sneakily like a top 7 rushing quarterback in the league, and no one knows. No one's known this entire time because he's had a bad ankle, he's had bad ribs, he's had a bad shoulder. It's been something that's kept this man anchored to the pocket. And the Chargers finally have an offensive line, I think, worth a damn this year. This is the best offensive line that he's played behind. And now that he's gotten healthy off that ankle injury, you're really just seeing what Justin Herbert can do when he has all his tools. It's that simple. And I don't care what the weapon core is. Like Will Dissly out there at tight end looking like he belongs. I'm telling y'all, put this man on tape. He has not gotten a yard of separation, but he somehow is getting these balls just handed off to him down the field.
He is. And I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest switch from this year to last year, definitely Harbaugh, but on the field has to be that defense, right? This team went from having a defensive minded head coach with one of the worst defenses in the league in Brandon Staley to now being arguably one of the best defenses in the league, allowing the fewest points per game under Harbaugh. And it's got to do with their defensive coordinator as well, who
Of course.
might end up getting a head coaching job somewhere else. But tell me, what is it about this defense that is so easy to love about as a Chargers fan?
I mean, they messed up, man. They messed things up in there. And it feels like every play, the defense, every single player on that side of the ball plays their absolute mind out every single play. And you see it across the league. When teams start to get down or teams start to get tired, things go left, things go right. You could see players start to give up. And we're seeing it across the league at about the midway point right now. And there's no quit in the Chargers defense anymore. And last year there was multiple games where they just gave up. They just almost stopped trying. There wasn't that pride behind them to play their ass off every game. In blowouts, last week against the Titans are on the goal line trying to score right before the end of the game. The Chargers don't let them score, even though the score has nothing to do with the result. Like, it doesn't matter. A couple weeks before that, it's a similar situation again. I think maybe it was the Panthers game, and they interviewed Derwin James about it. He's like, "No, we take pride in every single point that is put up against us." And it's just a switch in mentality, like you're saying, across the entire team from Staley to Harbaugh. And I think the underrated thing as far as players wise, a lot of people didn't realize that the Chargers made a bunch of sneaky moves
They
in the
did.
offseason on the defensive side of the ball. And those sneaky moves have all added up to flip this thing around. Like Puna Ford being placed in the interior of our defense, coming from Kansas City. I think he played in Seattle for a little while. He has been a revelation. Like, this dude has been playing at the best and the highest level defensive tackles can play right now. And he's been like a rotational defensive tackle most of his career. And he is just absolutely dominating. And then another guy is Denzel Perryman linebacker in the middle. He's been an all-pro in this league at linebacker in the past. He left the Chargers, went on a tour for a few teams, came back to the Chargers. And it's not even necessarily what he's directly doing on the field. It's just having someone in the middle of the field that has that experience of calling the defense and keeping it all together. And then the guy next to him, Agent Zero, Deion Henley, which people are learning his name this season, is a freaking stud in pass coverage, in run defense. He's all over the place. Just needed a mentor. He just needed someone to get in his mental and honestly let him loose. Like Staley was keeping him like very, very leashed, very, very to the simplest part of the scheme that they could keep him in when they would use him last year. And now Harbaugh has let him out there and said, go crazy, dude. You're an athletic freak. So I think it's a combination of the scheme, and really the scheme in an ironic sense has simplified. It's simplified and got better from Staley to mentor. And what you're seeing on the field, the Chargers are just rushing forward. We're not like sending any crazy exotic blitzes. They don't have any crazy zones. They're just playing man coverage and using the safeties over the top of the best receiver on our opponents, and our pass rush is just dominating. So it's a combination of that scheme, simplifying and letting the guys play. And some of these additions have been like the perfect fits at the exact spots we needed them last year.
And you're waiting on Mac to come back. Like that defense is only going to get better, I think, as this season
Yeah.
goes
I
on.
mean, and Bosa, man, and Bosa has been like half of Bosa for the last two
He's been
seasons.
quiet.
He's starting to get back healthy again. And then like sneakily, Asante Samuel Jr. People are forgetting of his existence, but one of the league's leaders in interceptions over the last couple of years, one of the best ball hawks.
So this team is now 7-3, right? You got to feel good after yesterday's primetime win over the Bengals. You think about teams in the AFC. The Bills, after last night, are probably the best team in the AFC. I follow that up with the Chiefs, who I think are still really good situationally, although yesterday wasn't their brightest day. The Ravens, maybe even put the Steelers in there. Who knows? The Chargers, to me, feel like they're right there. How do you feel about this Chargers team? What is their biggest weakness if they were to make an extended postseason run?
I think the biggest weakness is very clear, and I hate to say it because it's something that I've fought and resisted all off season into the season. Having confidence in Lad, and I do have confidence in Lad. Dude just freaking went nuts. Having confidence in Quentin Johnson, I do have confidence in Quentin Johnson to a certain point, but that game should not have been close. And the reason it was close is because of one, we had some calls go against us, and I was at the game, so I can't tell from an unbiased perspective if we should have gotten calls or not gotten calls or whatever. But it just seemed like last night, every third down in the second half, offense and defense, something went wrong for the Chargers. And like every third down was to end the game, it felt like. That's how far the lead had grown. And they were just chipping at it, chipping at it, chipping at it. I feel like every third down was to like close the game and run another 3 minutes off the clock and get us out of here. And we couldn't get it. And
So I'll
especially
tell
late
you, I'll tell you what I observed on TV, and you can tell me if maybe in the stadium this makes sense, and you can tell me, Ben, I think you're full of crap. I feel like in the second half, everybody and their mother knew Jim Harbaugh football. They know that when he has a decent lead, and you guys built up that lead steadily in the first half, they know that when Harbaugh has a lead, you're going to run the football. And because they knew that they were going to try to just run out the clock and eat away at the game, I feel like all of a sudden, what was in the first half, a nice run on first down that gave you a nice like 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 3, all of a sudden, because those were obvious run situations and you guys were kind of getting blown up at the line of scrimmage, that became 2nd and 12. And you had to dig yourselves out of a hole that you didn't need to, that you didn't have to earlier in your downs in the first half. And I think that's why they worked their way back into it, because everybody knew Harbaugh's not going to lose this game. He's just going to try to win it. And I think that's why it became, okay, third down is an obvious passing situation, and it's a little bit too much to ask when it comes to a guy like Ladd McConkey and QJ being your weapons. That's what I felt like was the situation in the second half yesterday. Do you feel the same way, or maybe did you observe something different?
No, yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that a lot of people think that J.K. Dobbins is just absolutely destroying everyone. Like, it's been hard work. J.K. has had a lot of explosive runs this year. When you start to look at his averages and stuff, that is contributing towards it. And when you look at last night as an example, most of the night he wasn't rolling. Not even just the second half, just period. So I agree with that. But I think when we talk about the biggest weakness, a lot of people think it's the interior of the Chargers offensive line. I feel like they're piecing it together. They're figuring it out. We have a new center this year, Bradley Bozeman, trying to make it happen. I'm not sure what the future of that is. I think the Chargers are probably going to go guard in free agency this year or
Yeah.
in the draft. So I think that'll
Yeah.
be an improvement there, and then they'll decide at center. I think the real issue is the drop passes, man, in the clutch, especially in the fourth quarter. Chargers dropped three first down conversions. I believe two of them put us in field goal range. The other one puts us right there on the edge of field goal range with Cameron Dicker, the biggest leg in the league right now. And these moments, it's something that Quentin Johnson needs experience with. It's something that Lad McConkey needs experience with. But at the same time, we're 7-3 and we're trying to compete in the AFC. So I think that's the Chargers' biggest weakness still. It was the biggest weakness a lot of people were saying in the offseason. I think that the Chargers still lack that guy that Herbert has 100% faith in to even catch a ball when he's wide open, an open field, running a drag route to end the game. So I still like wish the Chargers pulled the trigger on a trade at the trade deadline on any sure-handed receiver, and a few moved. So it would have been nice to see something to help Herbert out late in these games, because there's multiple times where Herbert made the freaking play. And that's why I'm seeing in the comments like people saying Herbert choked away that lead or whatever. Yeah, that fumble was fluky. He got kneed in the Falcon kneed in the face as he's going to the ground. Ball comes out as his elbows and everything are like crashing into the floor. Like, other than that one singular play, I feel like Justin Herbert did everything he could to win that game, and he got the win, thankfully. But some of these drop passes, we could be looking at this today in a Chargers loss if McPherson makes, one of those kicks, and we go, damn, well, they had three drive extending drop passes in the fourth quarter that led to punts at midfield. And that's tough pill to swallow as the reason that you lose a 20 set or 21-point lead.
It is. It felt closer than it should have been in the second half. I'll be honest, though, like going into that game, NBC was saying, and I know you were at the game, so you didn't get to see it. They said pre-game, 64% of America picked the Bengals. Now, me personally, I picked the Chargers going into that game, and easy to say in like retrospect, but like I just feel like the Chargers are a better team than people give them credit for, and they're definitely a better team than the Cincinnati Bengals are at this point. Bengals, who are, by the way, injured, who are not playing good situational football, who are Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and then what? Like, why do you think there was doubt surrounding the Chargers going into last night's game? Because it didn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think it's because the Chargers' strengths aren't flashy right now. Obviously, you look at the quarterback first, but the Chargers don't have Keenan Allen on the team anymore, and they don't have all of these like superstars on offense, Austin Eckler and flashy players. So America doesn't view the Chargers as a powerhouse. But really, when you flip it and you look at the other side of the ball, if Herbert plays like that, the Chargers are maybe the toughest out right now and the hottest team in football. When Herbert plays like that and the defense is on, I feel like the defense played excellent, even though they gave up 27 points by the end. This, to me, is the most lethal passing offense in the league. And it did not catch fire until the second half. The defense kept it shut down. Imagine they were full throttle on the gas like that the entire game. They would have put up 50 points last night. So I think that America just doesn't realize how good the Chargers defense is. They're not giving them the credit that they deserve for what they've done this year. They have done some special things. I think that they had the lowest points per game since Jim Harbaugh's 2011 San Francisco 49ers. And I don't think anyone is going to go player for player and go Patrick Willis to the Chargers and all these guys that were on the freaking Niners defense. So this is exciting to see. I really think that America is going to start to open their eyes more and more, especially because the Chargers are sitting at home again, just waiting on our 3-game home streak for Baltimore to come to town, who just lost. And if they beat the Ravens, what are we talking about then?
It's going to get loud if you guys beat the Ravens.
If they beat the Ravens, what are we talking about then?
It's going to get loud if you guys beat the Ravens. I think what works to the disadvantage here of like NFL football and fans really knowing about the Chargers is like the West Coast thing. It's the West Coast and being a team that has sort of has rerouted their home position, their home base, right, and has moved. And then you guys have like a weird TV market where you're competing against like really high profile teams. So like I'm not gonna in South Florida or even on the East Coast, like you're not gonna get a Chargers game in your market unless you're watching Red Zone or you've got Sunday Ticket. Like it's it's a problem of awareness. But if you guys beat the Ravens, things are going to get loud. That's
I
going to be
think
an
so
interesting
too.
game.
And it's the next three games is Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs at the Chargers.
Yeah, hold on. You said Ravens or the
Falcons,
Chiefs?
Chiefs. If the Chargers,
That's a
if
tough
the
stretch
Chargers, it's a tough stretch, but if they pull it off, like the conversation is gonna start being crazy. I think
for
even
sure.
maybe too far maybe. So I went into the stretch: Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs. Happy with the Chargers going 2-2, and then on the other side things lighten up and we can make our run into the wild card. The Chargers now with that win because the Bengals will be the team that would need to take our spot in the wild card. They
It's a
almost
nice head-to-head
clinched.
win.
They almost clinched. I mean, they would need to absolutely fall apart and only win like one game the rest of the season to miss the playoffs.
I think I don't even have faith in the Bengals in the postseason. I'm going to be honest. They start too slow. They are Joe
Yeah.
Burrow and what else? Like that team is just horribly constructed right now. Like,
The
and they're
defense, man, their secondary, especially to me, and I felt like this going into the game, and it was almost proven right. Like their secondary is very overrated. They're terrible. Let's be
they're super
honest.
bad. They're super. I had a take earlier in the show
Yeah.
where I talked about like Ravens knew that when they played Cincinnati, sure, it's a division game, sure, it's going to be a good one, but like it was one of the only games that that the Ravens won this year where they didn't run the ball with Derrick Henry more than they passed it because they knew number one, Joe Burrow's on the other side of the field. We're going to have to outduel him. Number two, what are the weaknesses of the team going into the week? Cincinnati is a terrible secondary. Like they know
Right.
we can use this to our advantage. Like that's an overrated team in my opinion. I'm a fan of Joe Burrow, but like this is not a good year for them. This is definitely an off year, and they have to build this team around him. Otherwise, it cannot simply be him, and that's ownership's fault for being so cheap, quite
Mm.
frankly.
I think that yeah, I agree with that take 100% by the way because when you look at what they need, maybe Jesse Bates could help a little bit right now. I don't know. Just the hunch.
You think?
But just a little bit. But yeah, the thing that's crazy about the Bengals at the same time is that's going to be a very interesting destination if they can get the Jamar Chase deal done. I wonder what coach is going to end up there. I could see like Ben Johnson or one of these hot coordinators that be in their spot. Like the Bengals want to go a little bit of a discount and not go full all in, try and bring in a legendary head coach that everyone knows, a household name, but you get maybe the genius of the class, you get your guy that Burrow can be paired with for his career. I like Zach Taylor's offense. I think it's been great over the last couple of years with Burrow. I think it's almost even at times exceeded expectations. But I've never felt that Zach Taylor's a great leader. I've never felt that Zach Taylor's leading that team majority. I think that's
No.
mostly Joe Burrow leading that team.
That's
That's
the
not
thing
how
is like
it's supposed to go.
you're we're talking about the offense under Taylor being like relatively decent, right? And consistently at least like putting up yards and points. But like to
It's
me,
good.
Joe
Yeah.
Burrow deserves so much more credit for that than he gets. And I think like the indictment to me on Zach Taylor's offense is the fact like they said the stat yesterday during the broadcast, like the Cincinnati Bengals more than 60% of the time when they're on a third and goal situation or like when they're they pass more than anybody else in the red zone. And like that is a massive no, especially when you're at the goal line. Like you've
Yeah.
got to run the football. And it was the criticism of the Chargers under Brandon Staley. Like, yes, you have Justin Herbert under center, but you can't put it all on him, even if you don't have a great run game. Like they have to be more disciplined and more balanced. I think that was the tale of the tape for me, if anything, like an underrated storyline. Chargers under Jim Harbaugh become really balanced, not just overall on defense and offense, but like their ability to run the football and to make sure to like eat away at the clock and play a balanced game. The Bengals, on the other hand, are like, let's give Joe Burrow, let's let him touch the ball 60 times a game and throw it 50 times if he can. Like, it's just so unbalanced. It feels like there's no plan. I said this about the Bills years ago when they were playing their worst football. Their identity on offense was Josh Allen. Like, your identity can't be a player. There's got to be a philosophy behind it. The Bengals' offensive identity is, hey, Joe, can you get the ball to Jamar like 11 times a game? You can't do that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's a great take because the Chargers really were like in their shoes a year ago, like sitting there facing like an uphill battle to try and make the playoffs with Justin Herbert at quarterback and Derwin James at safety. And Keaton Allen was on the team still, and all these guys, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? How is this even possible?
It's a different feel, man. I mean, you as a fan have got to be so excited. I want to talk to you about like the man who is behind all of this. So Harbaugh, how do you feel about him as a fan? What is your biggest takeaway from the first 10 games of the year?
It's it gives me chills sometimes, some of the things he says, because he's such a motivator. But as a fan watching it, it's just nothing but pure joy for the guys that have been here for multiple seasons and been struggling through some stuff, and struggling through some tough times as Chargers players. I look at guys like Derwin James. I think that's a great example. You look at how he's playing this year. He's playing amazing still, but it's not necessarily the same game-wrecking Derwin James that we've needed in the past. Like, our front seven is lethal. We need Derwin James over the middle of the field. And hey, go figure. He stopped that Hail Mary last night. But we need Derwin James deep down the middle of the field. He's not going to be in there cracking skulls like he usually does in the box and playing linebacker damn near. But just like what this guy's energy levels have come up to. Harbaugh said it yesterday, and I don't know how true it is if he's just hyping up his guys. He said Derwin James is like the hungriest football player he's ever been around at this point. I'm like, that's a high compliment for someone that has been up and down football, like, and around the world and back in this sport at this point. So I think that's the biggest thing is, and everyone expected it from Harbaugh. It's what he does. He's just brought a mentality to the team that's made football fun again. We're not overthinking it. We're not analyzing this or analyzing that. We're not going into the books on 4th and 2 and trying to like figure out what to do. Like, no, it's football. Are we running the ball well? All right, send Gus Bus out there, run it. What are we doing? Like, it's not like that. Like, we believe in ourselves the same amount that we say we believe in ourselves now. Before, it was just all talk, and I feel like that's the biggest difference. Is there's something behind it.
Bill Flames, I went Mike on the mic. With something brand new, one time for your mind. He gave you fair warning. Now it's time to smack him in the mouth with that raw sports talk from the town. Sweet chin music to your favorite sportscaster.